talk, probably one of the longer live streams that we've done, is this concept of earning college credit with the vehicle of AP history, the AP history exam specifically, without sacrificing the sport your student athlete loves. Because we all know a lot of time goes into practicing and playing the sports that they love, which then obviously we all have limited time. Not as much time might go into studying for the AP exam, but that's okay because you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours a day or weeks studying for this exam or getting ready for this exam. You can earn a top score without memorizing facts and without studying for hours. And we're going to kind of break that all down tonight. And I can kind of give you some background because we have a lot of people joining us lately in the group that are new the last couple of weeks. Welcome. And maybe we have some longtime viewers too. Just kind of give you a background of what we are, what we do. My name is Joe Sebastian. I do have a doctorate in educational leadership, but more on that later. But this company, it's actually a branch of my actual tutoring company called Supported Tutoring. But we've gone from 10 to 15 students a year privately tutoring with their AP exams every spring. And now we've worked with over 150 students from across the nation with AP history, geography, and government. So I haven't forgot about you, any people out there watching geography or government. We're going to more stick to AP history tonight because of how we created this webinar. But if you have specific questions about those two courses, we do offer support for that as well. And we do offer free trainings for that as well. But we're going to stick with history. My background is social studies. I have taught all these courses, so I'm certified to teach them. We do eventually want to offer more support for other AP classes, but we stick with these 5 for right now. Our students have consistently scored 4s and 5s on their exam. And that's something that the 25% of the nation is only able to do every year. And on average, students who work with us end up saving over $4,000 in college tuition per class and earning over 3 credits to a school of their dreams. So pretty cool. And so, just to show you a variety of students who we work with, I'm actually going backwards now to when I was a teacher. And it's all part of this backstory. It'll kind of make sense here in a couple of minutes, but bear with me. We're going to get to the good stuff. I want you to just give you a couple case studies. Nabila. She was an 11th grader when I started teaching her. She's actually been on the channel a couple times. Her testimonial is really testament to just the true magnitude of stringing a bunch of college level classes together to leverage it to get into a great university and earn credits. She was taking multiple advanced level college courses, with the caveat being it's IB, not AP, but I'm going to show you how it's kind of interchangeable. And she was heavily involved in extracurricular. She's a great student. She ended up earning 30 credits to Columbia University. Let's say that again, 30 credits to Columbia University. She had so many credits, she actually was able to take a gap year. She entered as a sophomore. And during that year, instead of going in as a sophomore, she took a gap year. She was able to travel the world. She went back to her home country of Afghanistan. She taught English there. And probably the most impactful thing with the economy where it is, she saved over $65,000 in tuition, all with advanced high school classes and those exams. And it's not just her. Another student that I taught, had the pleasure of teaching, Natasha. She is also a great reference of how she not only earned college credit to Syracuse, but she also is still employing the writing strategies that we teach in her career as a journalist and producer. She's up in Buffalo right now. Some highlights from this previous couple years. Christian and Lorenzo, both soccer players, both from California, 2 different areas, both have dreams of going into UCLA. They're aligning how they're going to go to UCLA together. Their scores on their AP European history for Christian and AP US history for Lorenzo, they earned a high enough score to each get 8 credits to UCLA. 8 credits to a state school that is very hard to get into is awesome to have in your back pocket. I interviewed both of them. Both of their testimonials are on, both their videos are on our Facebook page. Or how about Leanna and Laura? Leanna was a US student. Laura was an AP World student. They both earned high enough scores to earn college credit as well. And there was those 2 first Boys were soccer players. We work with a ton of different athletes. Izzy, a hockey player from Minnesota, Samantha, a volleyball player from California, both scoring high enough to earn college credit, banking college credit to the schools that they want to go to. And really cool story. This is actually carryover from private tutoring, but I actually had the pleasure of working with twin boys from Minnesota for 2 years in a row. Both scored fives in AP Government last year, and then did it again in AP World this past year. Quentin is actually a travel hockey player, crazy busy, but was able to use the writing strategies we teach in test prep and deploy them and get incredible results. And not just those courses, but again, AP Government, AP Geography, I don't want to leave you out. We actually had 3 masterclass students working with us for AP Human Geography, so I don't know if you could see that, but we went 3 for 3 for the full year masterclass students, scoring 5s in AP Human Geography. One was an athlete, one was a former IB student who didn't have much experience in multiple choice questions. Another one was from the Midwest who just wanted some good, solid strategies. We're hoping to have some recordings of their testimonials on here, but awesome job by those 3 ladies scoring 5s. And then I actually had this parent reach out to me of Audi, the student who scored a 5 on his AP Government this year. He's actually in Korea. She gave us a testimonial, pretty awesome. She was really excited that he scored a 5 in AP Government in the strategies that we use. So what are we going to do tonight, right? That's all well and good. You weren't here for testimonials. Just want to give you a background of the diverse set of students that we have helped, and how really it doesn't matter where you're coming from. Everyone has something to learn, and everyone definitely has something to gain. So tonight, 3 things. We're going to talk about how you are going to learn about how to score a 4 or 5 on the AP History exam. This is a top 25% score. Okay, and everyone shoots for a 5, and we love 5s, but 4 is almost universally accepted outside of a few Ivy League schools, and Stanford and MIT. We're also going to talk about how to study effectively without spending countless hours memorizing facts. And then we're going to talk about how to apply the writing strategies, and really that's one of our core principles, to consistently earn the most points on the FRQs, and for new parents, that is free response questions. And for AP History, that is worth 60% of your score. Okay, so I'm just trying to see who dropped a comment here. So hold on one second, making sure that I can get everyone's questions answered. Oh yeah, Susan, you are in the right place for the webinar. If you're working live, you're good. Okay, now you're on the Facebook. If you want the link to the Zoom webinar, you just have to go into the other link and sign in. But and I know I'm taking questions all the time. I'm going to kind of get through this. So drop questions as they come in. I will answer them, but I will dedicate a chunk of time at the end for bonus Q&A. Ask me anything. So that gets us to our mission. Our mission is to help student athletes and their parents understand how to leverage their AP exams for free college credit. Huge, right? There is a difference between passing and failing, obviously, but like the ramifications are gigantic. So my personal goal this year, I had 43 students last year. Our personal goal is to help 100 students earn college credit with their AP exams every year. So let's start with some cold hard truths, okay? AP students, you're taking AP class. You are a high achieving student. You're in a college level course. That is definitely right. That's true. Students that are low achieving usually don't take AP courses or don't score well. So we can assume this is a truth. Most students in AP courses are supposed to be there. They're high achieving. They're college bound. And as an AP student, you have a golden opportunity to earn free college credit each and every AP course. Okay. Before I get into that, free college credit only comes from the AP exam. Yes, it looks great on a transcript, but that doesn't really save you money. And if you've been following anything about college, you know that tuition fee and fees only go up year after year. This is the AP College Board Search, free for anyone to use. Very, very powerful tool. So basically, as you find the credit, you find the course, you could do a couple different ways. You could either find the ideal college, or you could find the AP course that your student is taking, search it, and then kind of go in deeper. So the credits are not always published. Ivy League is very tricky. They guard those like it's a secret. So the tool is only good as the tool is, but it's pretty good to make the point. So I'm going to show you some examples here in a minute, but the key thing I'm going to tell you is when you find the course, don't just take the credit for what it is, click on it to see what each school offers. So I actually did that. And in the interest of athletes in AP history, I went with the 2022 final college football playoff rankings. So anyone that's watching that's from Alabama, I am so sorry that we are going to put the SEC school Georgia in front, but I will promise you I'll talk about Alabama. And if you want to see any other schools, I can do a quick search, for example. Let me know if there's a school you want to see done live in the comments or on the Q&A in Zoom, and I'll do it. I just want to show you the power of this tool and knowing the parameters of like, hey, golden opportunity for my kid. Maybe they don't want to go to any schools, but this tool is great for everything. They have a lot of data in it. So looking at Georgia, Michigan, and TCU, the top 3 schools here out of before Ohio State. And we're going to use AP US history as an example. So if your student got a score of a 4 in any of those 3 universities, they would have at Georgia earn 3 credits, at Michigan earn 4 credits, and at TCU earn 6 credits. Really cool, really powerful there. Ohio State did have earned 6 credits with 3. There's a caveat to that. And so what does that mean? Well, every school is different and it allocates the credits differently. But the biggest thing I hear from a lot of our parents is, oh, my kid is going to be going into engineering. My kid's going to go into medicine, whatever. Well, guess what? The colleges make money. They're in business to make money despite their profit versus nonprofit status. But most colleges, there's a select few programs, but they obviously make you go through the undergrad programs before declaring a major. A lot of those undergrad programs are very similar to basic high school credits. They're going to have to take some required history, some US history, some world history, maybe an English class, maybe a math class, and so on and so forth. Especially if you're not going to be a humanities major, you got to take these 1-off, 2-off credits. For US history, it's sometimes in state schools divided between pre-Civil War, post-Civil War. You have to take them. So without really going into TCU or Ohio State, I'm assuming that those 6 credits come from 2 classes. So really earning a 4 or a 3 respectively at TCU or Ohio State on AP US history knocks out 2 classes for you. That's awesome, right? You could save money, save time, do something different, start your major earlier. Options are nice. So let's talk about the big one out there, Harvard. No disrespect to any of our Ivy Leaguers watching, but Harvard is a good example because I broke down the math earlier. Ivy League schools are unique. If you want to go to Harvard, you have to get 5s. And how Harvard recognizes it is, in most Ivy League schools are like this. They won't just accept a 1-off 5. For Harvard, you have to send them a minimum of 4 5s. But what's really cool is a 5 at Harvard equals 8 credits. And 1 credit is worth $1,500. This is from 2022, so it's probably more now. And 8 credits at Harvard is $12,000. So literally getting the minimum 4 APs times 8 would be $49,664 at Harvard. So you can see how Nebula was able to get $65,000 from Columbia pretty quickly. She earned it, but it was with a couple scores. So a little bit of audience participation. Raise your hands on Zoom. Say me in the comments. Who wants their student athlete or student, I misspelled student athlete, to walk into college with 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, or even 30 credits? Who here wouldn't want that? Let me know. Say me in the comments. Raise your hands on Zoom if you're still figuring out how to do that feature. You should be able to do it. There we go. We got one. Lisa wants it. Yes. Anyone else in Facebook? Guys with me? Guys with me? Lisa's with me. Okay. Yeah. Who wouldn't want that credit, right? Obviously. Now, here's the next cold hard truth. Between AP World History, AP US History, and AP European History, 1 million students will take this exam. Nicole, thank you. She wants her kid to earn some credits. Over 1 million students are going to take these exams each and every year. It's actually close to about 1.2 million, just so you know. 50% of these students will fail this exam, meaning not earn credit, not earn a score of a 3, 1s and 2s, okay? And only 10% average, this year we saw a skew upward, last year was a skew downward. Average 10% of students out of that million are going to earn 5s, and a 15% more average will earn a score of a 4, which means only 25% of the nation earn those top scores that get that college credit. Now, there are state schools that accept 3s, but I say the 4 is a safe bet. First thing, well, no worries. What if my student has an A in the class? First thing I need you guys to understand is that your grade in the class, especially for the history course, does not matter. It has no direct correlation with your exam score. I know that sounds nuts, but it's true. Because obviously 50%, more than 50% of these students that took this exam were probably A students. Okay, most of the classes, and that's what we're going to get into here, are not aligned with the exam. So there is a big gap in what is taught and what is assessed, and that's what I'm going to show you tonight. And statistically speaking, year over year, the hardest AP exams to pass are these. This is the top 10. 5 of the classes that we offer test prep for, ironically, social studies classes, are in the top 10 hardest classes to pass each and every year. How can that be? And the most popular AP courses, 3 out of the top 6 we offer as well. AP Psychology is probably coming up down the pipe, and I'm going to get some AP English, but these AP US History, AP World History, AP Government, most popular courses and hardest courses to pass in exam-wise. Here are the score distributions from 2022. The scores are out for 2023, but they don't have this nice little distribution yet. That should be coming out shortly. But if you look nationwide, so starting on the left with modern world history, 62% passed, 62%, 40% failed. Going over to European history, 60% passed, 40% failed. But then we go up to the score, and then US history is the lowest, 48%. That was the same this year as well. So look, 25% got 4s and 5s on US history. A little more here, about 34% on Euro history got 4s and 5s. Only 80,000 students took this exam. We had 456,000 students take the US exam, and 314,000 students take the world exam, with 34% getting 4s and 5s. So top third, top 25, what have you, these fluctuate. More students took the exams this year as we get further and further away from the pandemic. So there's the cold hard truth that the mean scores are under a 3. The average scores are under a 3. It is more likely that your student fails the AP history exam, statistically speaking, than passes it. So why does this happen? Is every teacher terrible? No, they're not. It's just a misalignment. But I've basically broken it down into 3 main reasons, with probably 1 being the most important. All right, we ready? Ready for the 3 reasons why? And this is going to be the solutions here. So reason number 1, parents need to understand that the AP history exam is now a writing test, not a complete writing test, but is a primarily high-level writing test. When you look at the course breakdown, only 40% of the exam's weight comes from the multiple choice questions. That's 55 questions in 55 minutes. 60% of the exam comes from writing. There's 3 short answer questions, also known as the SAQs, and I'll get to that in a second. And then there's two other parts of the exam: the document-based question, the dreaded DBQ, worth a quarter of the score, 25%, and the long essay question. All three history courses, the exam is structured exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the content. That's the only thing that's different. 60% of this exam score comes from writing. But teachers do not spend 60% of their time teaching the writing. That's where the disconnect comes. Why? Because this course is massive. There's 9 units, no matter which course you're taking. They get a pacing guide, a recommended pacing guide from College Board. They look at it, they have a panic attack, and they say, how am I going to get all this done? Keep in mind, the AP exams are usually the first 2 weeks in May, so they get an even shorter school year to cover the content. So it looks like them rushing through and making sure they cover content because the fear of them not finishing is real, and it happens. I literally coached kids last year from a couple different schools around the country who didn't even finish the curriculum. Yet we got them to pass, but they didn't finish units. They got to unit 7. They didn't finish units 8 and 9. They missed the whole 20th century. So yeah, it's important, but it's not the only thing. So if you have first year, second year teachers, if you have teachers that haven't gone to the AP Institute, or if you have old school veteran teachers who haven't updated, College Board has updated this course several times in the last decade, and it's moved away from just a content class to more of a skills-based exam. If they don't change their teaching practices, which, spoiler alert, some don't, and they just keep teaching the same thing and their exam scores don't matter, kids are going to miss out on these opportunities each and every year. I see it 100 times over, 1,000 times over. It happens. Obviously, you see the results and the scores. So why don't teachers teach writing? Why don't history teachers teach the writing for an FRQ? It seems like it's important, right? Well, usually they fall into one of these 5 categories of what I found. So if you think of a different one and want to let me know, please do. But this is generally what I see. They don't know how to teach writing. History teachers aren't writing teachers. I had to become one and had to learn because of the nature of the course, but you're not specifically taught how to teach writing in history teaching school, social studies teaching school. Furthermore, if they don't know how to teach writing, they usually don't know how to evaluate writing, which is a very important skill. They don't know how to give proper feedback or consistent feedback that's meaningful. And the excuse, I guess, is I don't have time to teach the writing, or I don't have time to grade writing. It is time consuming. Nabila used to joke all the time about what order of exams am I going to get to hers? She was a very good writer by the end, so I kind of used hers as the benchmark. But yeah, grading 150 papers over a reasonable time to give feedback, it's a lot. So teachers don't always do this. And then the other thing, the assumption, like going back to our travel baseball players, is they assume you already know how to write. So to my parents of athletes out there, can you expect your parent or your student to be great? Can you expect your student athlete to be great at a sport if they don't practice, if they don't spend time getting coached? A lot of parents probably watching, if you're a student athlete, you probably are involved in some kind of travel sport or extra coaching or whatever. Why? To get better, right? Yes. Raise your hands if your kid is a travel athlete or you get extra coaching. Let me know. Gotta be someone on here. Maybe? No? Participation. Come on. It's okay. Okay. Oh, we got one. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. I'm sure there is more. But yes, right? We invest time, we invest money on extra coaching for our kids, for our student athletes to get it. If we don't teach how to do this, students won't do it. I learned that lesson from the coach who hired me at Fairfax County. Miles ahead of any coach I've ever had the pleasure of working with. If we have expectations for so in that case it was baseball players, if we want our kids to perform this way and we don't teach it, how can we reinforce it? Really good life lesson for parents too. I don't practice all the time when I teach, but if you can't get angry at your kid for not doing something if you didn't teach it, right? So if we are expecting our kids to be high-level writers for this exam, and we spend no time teaching it or no time evaluating it, how can we reasonably expect that they will do well? That assumption is a false. So how do we solve this? So for AP history specifically, you have to master 3 different writing styles. So this, this webinar is going to be recorded. It'll be on Facebook, but if you want to take some notes down, pretty cool if you can have that conversation with your kid this year, either the school year started or throughout the school year. Ask them these questions. If you don't work with us, not a big deal again, but like keep in mind that you need to at least know what the heck is going on, because chances are they might not know what's going on. And it's okay to be an informed parent and ask your kids. And if you don't see it, then ask the teacher, right? Because this is what they're going to have to do. So the first thing you have to master for AP history is the SAQ, the short answer question. I'm using an AP Euro past exam for it. It's what I had handy. The questions look very similar to AP World and AP US. So I'm going to show you what the question looks like and how I break it down. These are my writing guides that I use in my private coaching course. If you want all of them, I'm going to give them away probably one last time this year before we start charging a very low fee for them. But we integrate it into all of our coaching and kind of like standardized teaches how to teach the writing. So if you want them, just type in an FRQ either into the comments or on Zoom. If you can throw me something in the webinar chat or question, let me know. I will send it to you privately. I'm not really advertising it because, again, I'm going to start charging for them out in the internet, but like very low fee, by the way. But these are really good to get started in how to frame the writing. So you see that the SAQ question here starts with a quote from a historian. This is from the Russian Revolution. And then there's 3 questions, A, B, and C. This question is worth 3 points. And if you looked back on your AP score calculator, SAQ1 has a multiplier of 3.3. So technically they're worth 9.9 composite points total. They have to get to 107 to get a 5. So it's worth a good chunk of points. It's basically like getting this right is worth like getting 9 questions right on the multiple choice. But so one question would go in 1A, describe one piece of evidence that would support the author's characterization, so on and so forth. They have to have a 3-part answer, a 3 to 4 sentence answer. They have to directly answer the question, they have to provide evidence, and then they have to elaborate, expand, or provide analysis on it. They have to do that consistently. It's the first skill they have to write with. It's probably the most practiced writing skill in their class, or at least it should be. But the SAQs are pretty straightforward. If your son or daughter took AP Human Geography, it's a little bit more complex than the FRQ from there, but it's pretty straightforward. But a lot of kids leave easy points on the table because they don't answer all 3 of these with 4 sentences. You have to write 4 sentences for each, or 3 to 4 sentences each, or they don't have a plan to write them. And so the average score on the SAQ is a 1 out of 3 instead of a 3 out of 3. So easy points left on the table. That can add up really quick. That's over 27 points that you can do. Okay, so that's the SAQ. The DBQ, here's what we know about the DBQ. You have an hour to write it. It is literally 1/4 of your score. 25% of your score comes from this. 15 minutes to plan it, 45 minutes to write it. It's a higher level question, usually going to evaluate to what extent. Probably no way you could see that on here, but just giving you an idea of what it looks like. They have to break down 7 documents. They're usually primary or secondary sources on a topic. This one is about the Catholic Church for AP European history and whether it was opposed or open to new scientific ideas. And there's documents suggesting that they were and they weren't. Done by purpose. And basically they have to come up with an answer to it. So what's the beautiful thing about the DBQ and the LEQ is that there is no wrong answer as long as you can prove what you're saying is true. And for the DBQ, you have to use the documents as your evidence. So the way I teach the DBQ, and I have done specific DBQ trainings here on the channel, I will continue to offer those this year when it makes sense. This year, it probably doesn't make sense this early in the year. You have to have some content on your back belt, but just keep this in mind, right? So how I teach kids to plan for this massive essay is they have to use the time effectively, which will come into a strategy later. But we want them to be effective at annotating the document. So when they read the documents, they're not just reading it for casual reading, they're reading it for purpose. So this question, evaluate to which the progressive movement fostered political change in the United States from 1890 to 1920. That's the wrong question. I pulled the guide from something else, but it was also evaluate whether the Catholic Church was opposed or open to new ideas in science. So let's just say that was the question. So they would have to look at those documents and break them down and summarize them by asking, how does this document help answer the question? So when they summarize, they're basically reformatting what the quotes are or what the written word is into their synthesis of summarizing what it means, right? And then they have to explain point of view, purpose, situation, and their audience. They have to do that 3 times. They have to summarize. They have to use 6 documents. I teach them to use 7. They have to provide some outside evidence, and then they have to form a thesis, provide background knowledge and contextualization, and they have to use a thesis. So how I teach this is to hack it, right? Breaking it down to repeatable tasks that basically it's automatic. Every time I see a DBQ, I don't care how much history you know, as long as you know something a little bit about it, you can come up with a response that gets you a lot of the points because the rubric is hackable. So that's kind of the basic breakdown right there. And then we go into teaching the body paragraphs. And so that's using assertions, which we teach in our course, that should align with your thesis, and documents and explanation. This is all kind of technical and a lot. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. We do hours of training on DBQ. But just to give you an idea that this is a complex level writing assessment, so it requires a lot of teaching, a lot of practice. Usually teachers assign it as like an assignment or a project or like a week-long thing. It's not realistic, but if they don't spend time actually teaching the process, it's really a moot point. And then finally, there's the LEQ. And the LEQ is you have a choice of answering 1 out of 3 questions, usually open to like evaluate the most significant in this effect of something, something, something. Really, it's a similar open-ended question, but this time they're providing the proof, right? So how we do that is we do it differently. It's like a brainstorm. We have to identify the question, underline the action verb, identify the historical thinking skill, because that's all part of the rubric. And then really don't answer a question that you don't know anything about. Answer a question that you can think of some specific proof for. So we teach that. We tell them, write down as much proof as they know, connect that with explanation, and then start to build their essay through that. It's very similar to the DBQ after that. Again, we do a whole separate LEQ training. We could spend hours on this, teaching it more than you need to know, but you need to know that these 3 things that we just went over are account for 60% of their total score. So the number 1 reason students fail, writing. But writing is an iterative process. It involves feedback loops. So it's not only enough to teach the writing, you have to get proper feedback on it. So if no one is reviewing the writing, you're not going to get good results giving you feedback. So the second thing I see why kids fail is content misalignment. So obviously we don't want our kids failing the course, but I challenge the rigor of the assessments, especially multiple choice. This is a screenshot of a 2019 AP World exam. It has gotten a little bit harder since then, but the question's very similar. This is typically what you'll see on an AP exam in the 55 questions of 55 minutes. There's a picture with a title and a caption, and then there's 4 questions based on that. And you notice none of it is specific, like what period is this? It's the artist's perspective on the subject of the painting was most likely influenced by which of the following: the Enlightenment, nationalism, social Darwinism, the Haitian Revolution. So you have to know context and apply it here, right? So it is a higher level skill than just basic multiple choice. So reason 2, content misalignment. What are you practicing? Again, you practice like you play. Most AP classes, the way I see the kids that we work with, there's a lot of memorization, there's a lot of understanding, remembering, right? They're taking endless notes, they're watching lectures. A lot of kids want to be lectured to. How is that learning? That's lower level thinking skill. And I just showed you a picture of the exam. The exam is assessed in the top half of Bloom's up here. You're creating essays, you're evaluating things, you're analyzing things, and maybe the lowest level we get to is application. So it's applying some skills, it's analyzing, evaluating. Like that's primarily where the exam is. So if we're teaching down here, but being assessed by College Board up here, that is misalignment. What are you doing in class? So a lot of kids turn to like study.com or Quizlets or whatever for questions, but those questions aren't like College Board. The questions you practice that really help you for the exam have to align with College Board. So if, again, another caveat, working with us regardless, the best thing you can do for your kid is invest $20 and buy them a test prep book just so that they can see the questions, right? Now, obviously they have to do it and practice and hold them accountable to it, but like, that's like number one thing, because you'd be surprised of how little they actually see of the test questions. So here's a caveat. This is from before AP was revised multiple times since 2015. The study was done prior to that. I'm sorry. The AP exams have all been revised since 2018, 2019. But like they found in an earlier study back in 2006, Harvard and Virginia did a study that AP courses do not significantly contribute to success in college because the AP teachers only focused on memorization of facts. AP College Board has shifted this because of this study. There is more skill-based test, and yet teachers haven't shifted. So that's a problem. So we actually practice how the exam will be, kind of like practicing like you play, makes sense. And then our final reason for tonight, okay? Thank you all for sticking with me so far. Hope you're getting some value out of this. No problem. Like, let me know in the comments if this is valuable, if this is helping. Would love some feedback as well. But the last reason we're talking about is time management, time implementation, and time stagnation. Okay, so we actually covered this in our course with our private students this past week. So we looked at approaches to reading, approaches to writing, approaches to note-taking. Some teachers require one type of note-taking. We taught 4 different types that are applicable to various situations, but chances are your teachers are not Peter says in the comments, I appreciate the feedback, Peter. Thank you. So chances are your teacher, your AP history teacher, is not going to spend time. We already talked about writing, right? So that's kind of, we've already checked that off. But they're not going to spend a lot of time teaching how to read, and obviously not like literally how to read, but like how to read the textbook effectively and how to take notes. They just have these expectations, but they don't teach it. Lisa said, thanks, great info. Thank you, Lisa, I appreciate it. So they don't spend the necessary time doing this. So then kids don't know how to do it. So what ends up happening, I'm a huge movie buff, so just FYI, it's kind of a disease. The Book of Eli, Denzel Washington's character, he's blind, and like religious books are outlawed in the post-apocalyptic world, but like he ends up repeating the entire Bible from memory. Someone transcribes it because it's the only Bible in the world. It's the end of the story. Spoiler alert, sorry. The 10-year-old movie, so you should probably see it. But a lot of kids, my point is, a lot of kids end up just copying the textbook. They don't know how to take notes. What is the point of copying a textbook? What is the point of watching a lecture and transcribing it? It's not. You need to learn how to teach notes. Now, we have various strategies. Every kid is unique. It's very personalized, right? I can say that this strategy is the most effective for me, but if it's not applicable to you, it doesn't really matter. So you have to have a variety of sets in your toolboxes and what makes sense for you. I liked outline style note taking, my personal favorite, but some kids like Cornell notes, some kids like drawing a diagram. So we go over those approaches, and really we want kids to be able to be malleable to what makes the most sense and know that there is a purpose behind note taking, right? Okay, so that's time management. Time implementation. Here's what I mean by that. if you're not practicing these exams, if you're not practicing the essays, specifically the essays, but also the multiple choice, if you're not practicing it in the time limits, so you have 40 minutes to answer 3 SAQs, you have 60 minutes to answer the DBQ, 40 minutes to answer the LEQ, and 55 minutes in 55 questions for multiple choice. If you're not practicing that, what are you doing? I've seen DBQs given assignments for the entire week. That's not realistic. Anyone can write a DBQ in a week. Can you write a DBQ in 45 minutes? So another thing to keep in mind is now that you have some knowledge on what the writing is, take note of what the timers are. And if you can't take note or can't take a screenshot of this or don't have a place to take notes, want to watch the replay, College Board has all of this. All you have to do is go to the specific exam and look at the exam link, break down this. So kids need to practice these questions under the time limits. The earlier they start, the better they are. Okay, time implementation, and then time stagnation. I don't know if this is this is the appropriate use of the word. I just kind of keep the common theme of time, right? Time stagnation. Why we help student athletes? Because all time is limited. There's 9 units, only 8 shown on here. If your school is like mine and you have travel sport, your kids are leaving just a regular public school or private school to go travel to play a sport, and their classes are in the afternoon, they might miss class time. Or, they might miss out on opportunities to study the book or review the notes or whatever, but they miss time. That time adds up really quickly. Again, information is given like a fire hose. Like the first unit for AP US history, 5 instructional hours. So missing one, what's that? 20% of unit 1 is missed if it's actually paced out correctly. And most of the time it's not. They're spending less time than the recommended time. So missing class, missing instruction, falling behind, like that is a problem. And so you end up having huge gaps in your learning, and we don't know where it came from. Just look at how AP US is weighted. So unit 1 and 2 is weighted a little bit less, but if you miss the middle part of the year, like you should be at unit 3 probably by November. I'm not looking at my pacing guides right now, but just based on working backwards, yeah, probably past unit 3 by then. But your score, majority of your score is coming from your knowledge of unit 3 through unit 8. So missing class or having a game on one of the days you have to take notes or study, whatever, as a parent of a student athlete, how much valuable time is, right? I'm laughing because I have way to make a decision on it. Should both of our daughters in 2 different grades play softball at the same time? It could be a logistical nightmare for us. But one was like, I'm not a softball girl. I just want to dance. Awesome. You're going to dance on Wednesday. My daughter's going to play softball on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sweet. They're 5 and 7. So it works out for us. But time divided, especially if you have multiple kids, like it's a lot, right? So they're not spending hours and hours of time looking at the books, which not a great use of time anyways. But missing that time is big. It creates big gaps. So what ends up happening is kids enter the learning pit. Now, learning pit's actually used in a positive way here, because we all have to get in the learning pit to have a deeper understanding of learning, of something, of knowing something. So we don't know something, we don't know what to do. Why do I need to know this? We enter the learning pit, and then eventually we get out of it, hopefully in the proper time, right? Either we get help or we have some ideas, we start experimenting, we try, and then we figure out we can do it, right? Everyone goes into the learning pit differently, comes out differently. It's all different cycle. But if you have these giant gaps in complex understandings, you might enter several learning pits that you might never get out of, because you really only have one chance to get this right. So on the last day of our intro classes for our private students this summer, it was kind of a warm-up on-ramp, we called it. We talked about 2 mindsets, growth mindset and fixed mindset. It comes back to applying to the writing, right? Everyone has experienced fixed mindset and growth mindset for various things. If you've ever said, I'm not good at math, if you've ever said, I'm not good at writing, you ever said, I'm not handy, I'm not this, I'm not that, that is a fixed mindset. No one is good at anything the first time they try it, and that's probably a double negative. So English teachers, sorry. But it's using negative things like I don't know or I am not. You're manifesting a fixed mindset. You'll never be good, right? That's not true. You just require practice. Everyone is different when it comes to requiring practice. So when we taught IB, going back to that intro thing, we started practicing writing day one, actually day two, because we wanted to know, hey, doesn't matter where you are. You're the good writer, you're bad writer, whatever. We're going to take you from where you are and we're going to make you better. So having that growth mindset, embracing the challenges. So they've already employed growth mindset as an athlete. Wherever your kid is right now, ability level, I'm sure they weren't that good always, right? They started somewhere and they grew. So that same approach has to be taken for the AP course, especially if this is the first time. Is that doesn't matter if you're a good writer or bad writer. It doesn't matter where you're at. You have to have, I'm going to get better with practice. Doing nothing, you're going to continue to be bad. Yeah, obviously. So that's a growth mindset. So the whole lesson is the sooner you start, the faster you master. And I just realized that rhymed. Need to copyright that. But the sooner you start, the faster you master. So love, tragically that love Kobe Bryant, tragically lost way too soon, but it's not about spending hours of time practicing, like work harder, not smarter. He always talked about being present during the practice. So he was famous for saying that my practices are going to be harder than the game because I want the game to be easy. I want the game to feel like I'm so much better than everyone else. So if you're not practicing like you're going to play, if you're not going to practice at a higher level than what you're going to be assessed, probably not ready for game time. So, been talking a while. Thank you all for staying with me right now. I'm going to a couple more minutes. Just bear with me. Really appreciate everyone on the live stream. We've been going over an hour. Obviously, I could talk about this a lot more. Just the diagram there, where the tip of the iceberg. There's a ton more to this. So start getting ready your questions.